Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today's video is the third one in my authenticity series, and if you're new here, I want to explain to you guys a little bit what the authenticity series is all about. If you watched my video on overcoming depression, and please make sure you go back and watch that one if you haven't seen it yet, because it kind of gives the background for the series. I've been struggling with some mental and emotional battles for a really long time, mainly like anxiety and depression and stuff like that. And I think it's because I never really have fully allowed myself to be my 100% authentic self. Like I've lived most of my life being a people pleaser and being really concerned what other people think about me. And so I kind of wanted to do this series just to share my journey and my experience with overcoming anxiety and depression and becoming more authentic. And I'm hoping that it can help other people along the way who are also going through the same thing. So like I said, this is the third video of the series, so make sure you go back and watch those first 2 episodes if you haven't yet. And please also make sure you go ahead and hit that subscribe button as well as the bell notification, so that way you won't miss future episodes in the upcoming series. And lastly, if you're new here, I'd also love to invite you to join my free Facebook group that I put together. It's called Raw and Real. And it's a place that I created where we can look at a complete picture of health. Like this is one of the things that I'm just really passionate about. Getting to the optimal level of health on the outside by doing things like juicing and consuming lots of raw and fresh fruits and vegetables and other foods. So that's what the raw part of the title relates to. And then the real part of the title is, like I just mentioned, my journey to 100% authenticity. And so I just want it to be a support group where we can all come together and be on our health journeys and move together toward a complete picture of health. So if that sounds interesting to you, I'll put the link for it in the description below, and I would love to have you. And with all that out of the way, let's dive into the video. So this episode in the series is all about loving yourself, and loving yourself is going to be absolutely critical to being your most authentic self. And I kind of want to break down to you guys why it's so important to love yourself. I feel like this can be like a little bit of a cliche term, like I feel like we hear about it all the time, but I want to break down to you guys the logic of why it's actually really super important that you love yourself before you can fully be yourself. So just from an evolutionary standpoint, humans have a strong need to be accepted by others. And this is because back in pre-modern times, it was literally the difference between life and death. If you weren't accepted by your tribe and you were rejected by the people around you, it could literally mean the difference between you living and dying. And so today in modern times, the way that translates is we'll naturally try to just hide things about ourselves or make ourselves be a certain way in order to blend in and to feel accepted by the people around us. And it's also natural for us to think as humans that if we dislike something, we naturally assume that other people will dislike it too. So if you're having these thoughts and feelings about yourself and the people around you that you will be rejected if you're your authentic self and you don't love yourself, then naturally you're never going to be your most authentic self. And another reason it's so important for you to love yourself is because it's actually also going to be pretty much impossible for you to fully love other people if you don't love yourself. And the reason for this is because you're always going to have in the back of your mind this sense of distrust towards people in your life who you feel like might reject you. Almost like if you feel like if they knew the real you, there's no way that they would love you anymore. And that's naturally going to create some anxiety in your relationships. And so if you're feeling this anxiety, again, not only are you going to keep hiding yourself from people, but you also might spend a lot of time surrounding yourself and building relationships with people who were never really meant to be in your life anyway. You know, people who never really would have stayed with you if they knew who you were authentically, and people honestly who you may not necessarily want to stay with based on their morals and values if they don't agree with what you truly feel deep down. And so once you fully love yourself, you're going to feel a lot more free to be yourself, and therefore you're going to attract the people who are supposed to be in your life and the people who are supposed to be around you. So now that we've talked about why it's important to love yourself, I want to talk about some of the steps that I've taken toward loving myself more, and just some of like the overall themes and things that I've learned from different authors and just all the studying I've done on this subject. So one of the first things I realized when I was on this journey of getting infatuated with myself, not even just loving myself, but getting infatuated with myself, was to be in awe in the power that I have as a human being. And so something we all have to realize is no matter what situation you're coming from, whether you're coming from a situation of poverty or abuse or trauma or what might seemingly be a really bad situation, at the end of the day, we're all spiritual beings, and that's something that we have to realize if we want to come into our full power. And so just to quickly explain this, because you can get down a rabbit hole, and I'm not going to give you guys a dissertation on it, but essentially the reason that we're all spiritual beings is because everything in the universe is energy. And just to give you a quick rundown of that, it's pretty obvious. Like if you know anything about physics, like, you know, just like simply how physics work, everything in the universe, like, us, all the animals, all the objects, all the plants, everything in the universe is made up of atoms, and each of those individual atoms are made up of energy. So therefore, everything in the universe is energy. And so what makes humans different than all other animals and any other being on this planet is that we're aware of the fact that we're made of energy while other animals aren't. And we can also use our brains in really special ways that other beings on this earth can't. So if you guys have been following this channel, you know how much I love Bob Proctor, and I seem to mention him in every video. But I'm in a program of his, and one of the things that we're learning is about the 6 higher faculties that human beings have, which are basically just 6 ways that we can use our brains in ways that other beings can't. And so I'm not going to go into detail what they're all about. If you guys are interested in studying it further, I'll put a link in the description of this video that points to an article where Bob talks all about it. But I just want to tell you guys what the 6 mental faculties that we have are. So we have our imagination, we have our intuition, we have the will, we have memory, we have reason, and we have perception. And so because of this awareness that humans have and the special ways in which we're able to use our higher faculties, what's amazing about us is that we're able to create just about anything from the energy that's already here in the universe. And a way to think about this is just to think about all the amazing technology that we have, like especially stuff that like AI that's coming out now. Like if any of you guys have ever used ChatGPT, you know how just amazing and mind-blowing it is that someone was able to create that. And all the other technology we have, like smartphones, airplanes, cars. At one point, these things were all completely thinkable to the people who were here on Earth. And the way that Bob explains it, and what's pretty cool about it, is that the way to do these things and the way to create these things has always been here. We just had to figure out as human beings what it was. So for example, the way to use a touch screen, like the way to create an iPhone, was already here. All the elements we needed, all the energy we needed in order to create the iPhone and make it do what it does was already here. But we as human beings just had to figure out first how to do it, like how to arrange the energy in the way that would work for us. And so in a nutshell, this is why every human being is capable of creating their own reality. And that's what makes us so amazing. That's what makes us made in the image and the likeness of God. If you're religious and you see this in any religious text, we are literally made in the image and the likeness of God, meaning that we're able to create our own realities and arrange energy in the ways that benefit us the most. And so that's one of the first things that really helped me to start loving myself and being excited about myself, was that God chose me to have the amazing experience of being a human and having that incredible power of being able to create my own reality and do anything I want to do. So now that I've talked about how I was able to get excited about the power that I have as a human being, I want to dive a little bit more into just how I was able to get excited about my personality and all the little unique things about me, and how I was able to start getting really excited and just, like I keep saying, infatuated with myself. So I want to talk a little bit about the cliche of loving yourself, because like I mentioned at the beginning of this video, I feel like we kind of hear about that all the time. You'll hear advice like, oh, buy yourself flowers, or take yourself out on a date, or do self-care, and all these things are considered to be self-love. But when I would try to do those things back in the day, when I very first started working on this, I never really fully got what was so great about doing those things. And honestly, it never really made me feel better. And so now I realize, looking back on that, why I was never really able to get all that excited about it, or wasn't that effective. It's because I still didn't really internally have those feelings of excitement for myself. So it would be no different if you bought flowers for somebody who you didn't really like that much, or went on a date with somebody who you didn't really like that much. You wouldn't really be able to get all that excited about it. And so like I just mentioned, for me, if it makes it easier for you guys, if you kind of have trouble feeling these feelings towards yourself, a good place to start is to relate it to how you feel when you're excited about someone else. So like when you have a crush on somebody, or a romantic interest or something like that. So the same way you can get kind of like giddy and like really excited and spend all day daydreaming about all the little personality quirks and, stuff that you really like about a person who you're interested in that way, it can feel really good to start there with yourself and to start feeling that sense of excitement and that rush almost that you get when you really like someone. And the last thing I'll say about this is, like I mentioned at the beginning of this video, the sooner you can feel this way about yourself and feel really excited and love yourself fully, the sooner you're going to be able to be your 100% authentic self. Because just in the same way that you're super excited to share with all your friends about that new person that you have a crush on, you're going to be really excited to share yourself with the world in the same way. So now I want to quickly mention, what do you do if there are just a lot of things about yourself that you just really don't like? Like, how can you start loving the unlovable when it comes to yourself? So for me, a thing I had to realize is that falling deeply in love with myself didn't just encompass the great parts of my personality, like the things that I did like about myself and consider to be good traits, but it also meant respecting myself enough and accepting who I was and what I believe enough to also appreciate, I guess, more so some of the negative things about my personality. So like if I didn't like something, or if I didn't want to do something, or I didn't hold certain values, also allowing myself to feel that and be accepting of those parts of myself. I want to mention really quick too, if you do feel really unloving toward yourself, you might still be carrying some shame, like some feelings of shame. And if you guys are interested, definitely make sure you go back and watch my video on letting go of shame, because it's going to be really helpful for you to kind of understand where the shame is stemming from and why you're feeling so unloving toward yourself. But one thing that really helped me, and I want to share with you guys one of my favorite books on this subject, it's called The 4 Agreements, and I'll also drop the link for it in the description if you're interested in reading it. But it essentially just shares 4 major ways that we can all step into loving ourselves right now and loving other people as a result, and honestly just completely letting go of suffering. And so the rule that was most instrumental for me out of the 4 was the rule that says, always do your best. And I think when we hear that, when we hear to do your best, we all know what that means when it comes to pushing yourself to do something. So like doing your best in school or doing your best at a job or something like that. But what was so mind-blowing for me about the way it's broken down in the 4 agreements is not only is doing your best, pushing yourself to do more, but doing your best also means not pushing yourself to do more than what you want to do or what you feel compelled to do. Because just like not doing enough seems like not doing our best, like letting our grades fall by the wayside or not going above and beyond for a family member in some way, it's actually also true that doing too much is not doing your best, because you're naturally going to feel resentful, burned out, and not really happy about doing whatever it is that you have to do. And so I think the 4 agreements just does a really great job of summarizing how important it is to also be accepting of the parts of ourselves that seem like they're less than optimal, when in reality, we're completely lovable right now, just the way that we are. And another way that it helped me to think about this is if you're wanting to stick to the 4 agreements more often and you're having trouble hurting people's feelings or saying no or being a people pleaser, again, try to think about it the way you would think about a crush. Like if you really liked somebody and they were telling you about a situation where they felt kind of resentful about having to do something, or they really didn't want to do something, you would encourage them to stand up for themselves and to only do what they wanted to do and to not go above and beyond if it didn't feel good to them. So see if you can try to give yourself the same grace and the same encouragement in this way. So now that we're toward the end of the video here, I want to share 4 exercises that were really helpful for me, and I hope will be really helpful for you guys, that can kind of help you start implementing some of these things and taking action on some of the things that we've learned. So the first exercise is to sit down and make a list of all the qualities that you really like about yourself, that you genuinely like about yourself. And then I kind of want you to pretend that you're going to go tell one of your closest friends, like you don't actually have to do it if you don't want to, but pretend that you're going to go tell one of your closest friends about this new crush that you have. But the new crush in that situation is going to be you. So in the same way that you would be describing to a friend about this new person in your life that you're really excited about, and you'd be telling them all about their positive qualities, see if you can do this for yourself and get really excited about the positive qualities that you have. The second exercise is to think about the last time you had a crush on somebody and ask yourself what were the things that you really liked about this person. And you can make a list too if you want to. And after you've done that, I want you to compare it to yourself and see if you have any of those qualities. See if you have any of the qualities that you really like and appreciate in another person that you can also get excited about having yourself. And if not, if there aren't any qualities that you can relate back to yourself, it's also a good time to start asking yourself how you can start taking on more of these qualities. The third step is actually to go ahead and sit down and write down all the qualities you don't like about yourself. It's, perfectly fine to get honest here. And again, if you want to ever let go of shame, it's important to take this step as well. But go ahead and ask yourself all the qualities that you don't like about yourself. And then I want you to really tune in and ask yourself why you don't like these qualities. Is it coming from societal expectations, like you worry that other people would judge you if you have these qualities? Or is it that you yourself really don't like these qualities in yourself and you might need to make some changes? But another thing you could do is you can think of other friends or family members, like people who you really love and have a close relationship with, and think about some of the qualities that you don't like in them And ask yourself, why is it that I'm able to still accept being in a relationship with this person, even though they have qualities that I don't necessarily like, and even though they're not perfect? If I can accept them and love them and still have a good relationship with them, am I able to feel about myself in that way, even though there might be some qualities about myself that I don't really like? And lastly, this fourth exercise is more of like a feeling and a visualization exercise. So it might be a little bit uncomfortable at first, but try to bear with it. It's going to be a 30-day exercise, and it might be uncomfortable in the first couple of days, but try to see if you can challenge yourself to make it to day 10, and usually by then you'll be a lot more comfortable. But I want you guys to either spend 30 seconds looking in the mirror at yourself or printing out a picture of yourself and looking at it. And again, returning your mind to all those qualities that you really love about yourself, like the qualities that you can get giddy and excited about as if you had a crush, and see if you can spend 30 seconds feeling it, like actually feeling it within your heart, like those feelings of giddiness and excitement. And you'll often find that after the 30 days, you'll feel a lot more loving toward yourself just because you were able to associate yourself with that really giddy feeling. Like your brain will actually start to make new neural pathways to where you associate yourself with that feeling of excitement and giddiness. So that wraps it up for this one, guys. I hope it was helpful, and the 4 exercises that I mentioned here are going to be helpful to you on your journey. They were really helpful on my journey, and like I mentioned, this is something really near and dear to my heart, and it is going to be one of the most important parts to being your most authentic self. So if you like this one, please be sure to give it a big thumbs up and share it with your friends. I would greatly appreciate it. And please also follow me on Instagram, and I'm going to have my handle here on the screen from now on. Like, I'm just going to have it here throughout the entirety of the video for you to follow me there. You guys can DM me with any questions or requests for future videos, and I would love to connect with you. Next Monday, we're going to be moving on into the next part of the authenticity series. So this first part was all about loving yourself, and next we're going to be getting into loving others. And the first episode in that series is going to be all about letting go of judgment and expectations of other people, because I found that was definitely one of the biggest things that's held me back from loving and having a good relationship with other people. So like I mentioned, if you don't want to miss those episodes, please make sure you hit that subscribe button as well as the bell notification. And like I mentioned, those series are going to be coming out every Monday, so just make sure you don't miss them. And besides that, guys, stay tuned, and I'll see you in my next one.